The Hell of Overwhelm. At its essence, trauma is not necessarily what happened. Trauma is what the nervous system experienced as too much, too fast, too long, or too alone. The result? Overwhelm. As a child, we lack the capacity, support, safety, or understanding to process what is happening. So the nervous system says, "This is too much for me," and our survival patterns are born. What we call survival strategies. People don't become pleasers, controllers, avoiders, perfectionists, overthinkers, hyper-independent, narcissistic, codependent, because they are defective. They are trying to prevent one thing: becoming overwhelmed again. Our ego is essentially an anti-overwhelm system. It predicts, controls, analyzes, prepares, explains, worries, proves, performs, all in an attempt to avoid, "I cannot handle this." Anxiety is anticipated overwhelm. Not something bad might happen, but something bad might happen and I won't be able to handle it. That's a huge difference. Let's look at depression and overwhelm. Depression often becomes overwhelm exhaustion. The system eventually says, if everything is too much, I simply won't move. Shut down. Freeze. Collapse. Numbness. What about burnout? Burnout is accumulated overwhelm, not necessarily too much work. Too much responsibility, uncertainty, emotional load, decisions, caregiving, expectations, self-pressure without enough recovery. The wounded empath archetype. How does that overwhelm picture look like? The wounded empath becomes overwhelmed by everybody's emotions, guilt, responsibility, expectations, disappointing others, and eventually loses themselves in a hell of overwhelm. Narcissism. What about that one? Interestingly, narcissistic defenses can also arise from overwhelm. Vulnerability itself becomes overwhelming. So the person protects themselves through grandiosity, blame, control, superiority, emotional avoidance. Relationships and overwhelm. Let's have a look. Many relationship problems are really overwhelm problems. One partner becomes overwhelmed by intimacy, conflict, vulnerability, needs, responsibility, emotions, and withdraws. The other becomes overwhelmed by distance, uncertainty, abandonment, and pursues. Parenting and overwhelm. How does that go together? Children do not primarily need perfect parents. They need parents who help them process overwhelm. Healthy parents repeatedly communicate, "You are not alone. This is big, but we can handle this together." Eventually, that voice becomes internal, manifesting your own reality from a fear for overwhelm. What about that one? Manifestation problems are often overwhelm problems, because abundance, love, success, visibility, and expansion all mean more energy, more attention, more responsibility, more uncertainty, more change. To the traumatized nervous system, expansion, abundance, and success itself feels overwhelming, which explains why people sabotage success, not because they don't deserve it, or they believe they don't deserve it, but because their system says, too much. Shutdown and inner sabotage is what follows. Procrastination. How can we link that to overwhelm? Procrastination is the overwhelm management attempt by far. The brain divides the load by postponing. Temporary relief, long-term stress. Overthinking. Thought about that one yet? Overthinking is an attempt to solve overwhelm before it happens. The mind believes, if I think enough, I won't be overwhelmed. but thinking itself becomes overwhelming. Control and lacking it all the time. Let's see. Control is outsourced nervous system regulation. If I can control everything around me, I won't feel overwhelmed. But reality refuses to cooperate, as you may have found out by now. Hence, control leads to frustration and subsequently to more overwhelm and less control. The spiritual perspective, the soul may seek expansion, but the ego seeks manageable experience. Thus much suffering arises from this tug of war. Soul begs you, grow. Ego warns and dominates you. Too much. Perhaps our formula for manifestation could even become manifestation equals capacity times direction, not desire times effort. Because desire without capacity produces overwhelm, and overwhelm produces contraction of the heart, the permission gate for peaceful presence, followed by the overwhelmed and controlling or collapsing mind going nuts in its speech of self-sabotage. Healing, therefore, is not becoming stronger or more stress-resilient by using forced mind tricks, nor becoming someone else. Healing is gradually teaching the nervous system, I can handle more than I once could. And eventually, life is not too much. And perhaps the deepest healing message beneath all trauma is simply, I am no longer alone. I am no longer powerless. I am no longer that overwhelmed child. I am just aware, peaceful and present.